Hello learners, welcome to this course on practical machine learning using Google Colab. So in this video tutorial, let us start with the fundamentals of machine learning part 1. And I will be briefly discussing about the types of machine learning in this tutorial. So an artificial intelligence system is nothing but a computer which runs a program which can sense, reason, act and adapt to a particular situation. So essentially an artificial intelligence system is going to have a microprocessor or a microcontroller which is going to run a program which can get the parameters from the environment through sensors. Sensors are nothing but the transducers which convert your one form of quantity into another form. So this real-time data is acquired through the sensors and the computer reason it. Why the data is like this? If any modification has to be carried out in the data, what should be the final outcome of the data in the environment? So such type of scenarios are taken into account while running a program on a computer in an artificial intelligence system. So a major subset of your artificial intelligence system is machine learning. So in a machine learning, the computer is going to execute an algorithm whose performance gets improved as it is exposed to more and more data. As the algorithm is exposed with more and more data, the algorithm tries to learn different patterns, different association between the data. So thereby, in the near future, based upon its experience, it can able to make more right predictions. So a machine learning is an application of artificial intelligence which makes the computer to predict the outcomes automatically without the intervention of the human beings. So a major subset of your machine learning is deep learning systems. So deep learning systems are made up of neurons connected in certain fashion to form a network, neural networks. So we have multi-layered neural networks which learns from this input data, find the patterns, association between the input data, and through which it can be able to make more right predictions. So when we talk about the types of machine learning techniques, we have three major types: supervised learning, unsupervised learning and reinforcement learning. And there is also a fourth category which is semi-supervised learning, so which I will talk a little bit in a brief manner. So first let us start with supervised learning. So in a supervised learning, we have a data and its associated ground truth values. Ground truth value in the sense what type of data is there or what information is present in the data. That is given as a ground truth value. So in a supervised learning, the important thing to note here is the data and its ground truth values are known. And the data will be provided to the machine and ask the machine to make a prediction. So now the machine makes a prediction based upon its experience, and once the prediction is right, it is fine, no problem with it. Whereas if the prediction is wrong, already we know the ground truth value, right, on the data. So based upon the ground truth value, we can correct the machine. So this is not the right answer, this should be the right answer. Like that we can able to correct the machine. This process is called as a learning process for a machine. So once the machine learns on more amount of data, then it is expected that when it is exposed to a test data, it can able to make more right predictions. So such type of learning technique is called as a supervised learning technique. The second type of learning technique is unsupervised learning technique. So in unsupervised learning technique, we have only the data. there is no ground truth value associated with it. So once I have only the data, now the machine is asked to make a prediction. So now what it does, the machine, it tries to find some patterns on the data and tries to group those patterns, or it tries to find the association between the data and try to group those items together. So here what happens is essentially an association or clustering takes place of the data. So here the machine is not able to make or pinpoint the exact ground truth value, but it can categorize the data based upon the patterns or association in the data. So such type of technique is called as an unsupervised learning technique. And the third type of method is your reinforcement learning. So where we don't have any type of data itself. There is no data to start with. Now an agent needs to learn based upon its action. Right? So we don't have any predefined data available. Right? So now the agent has to learn by itself, by doing some action, by performing some action. It learns, it gathers the information, it tries to gain knowledge by its action. So when it performs certain action, the action can lead to reaching a goal. In that case, the system will be given with a positive reward. If the action does not make the system to go to reaching a goal, then in that case it will get a negative reward. So based upon the action and reward mechanism, what happens? The learning takes place. So such type of scenario is called as a reinforcement learning technique. So the important thing here is, in supervised learning, we have a data and its associated ground truth values. So once the machine makes a wrong prediction, we can be able to correct it because we know the ground truth value. Whereas in a unsupervised learning, only data is given to the machine. So now the machine finds the pattern or association in the data and tries to form the groups, form the clusters, thereby categorizing the data. Whereas in a reinforcement learning, it is completely free from data. So now the agent needs to learn based upon its action. So each action comes with a reward. So the reward can be a positive reward or can be a negative reward. And this reward, everything, it will be taken into the memory of your computer. So based upon the past actions, the present action will be decided by the agent. There is another type of learning technique which is called as semi-supervised learning. So in semi-supervised, few data will have a ground truth value and few data will not have a ground truth value. In that case, what we do is, we use the data with the ground truth value to make a prediction on the data without ground truth value. And then the data set is appended, and then we try to apply supervised learning technique to that new data set. So such type of learning is called as a semi-supervised learning technique. Now let us see the comparison between these three types of learning: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Supervised. Given a data set with ground truth values, we find the relationship between the input and the output. So the important thing here to notice, the data available in the data set as a ground truth values, based upon which we find the relationship between the input and the output. Whereas in unsupervised, there is no ground truth value associated with the data, so we find the association. So association in the sense, how far one data is related to another data. So for example, if a person goes to a supermarket, if he wants to buy a bread, then there is a chance that he is more likely to buy a jam, butter or cheese, because bread is closely associated with your jam, butter or cheese. So the association between the data. So like that we can find some association between the data, or we can find the pattern between the data. Then depending upon the association or pattern, the data items can be grouped together. So such type of technique is called as an unsupervised learning technique. In a reinforcement learning, an agent interacts with the unknown environment and gains knowledge or experience through its actions. By performing actions, the agent gains the knowledge. So each action comes with a penalty or a reward. In case of supervised learning, what type of data we are using? We are using a labeled data. So labeled data in the sense each data has its ground truth value. In unsupervised learning, the type of data is unlabeled data. We have only the data. Whereas in reinforcement learning, there is no predefined data. So what type of problem can be solved by using your supervised learning? Regression and classification. So classification is categorizing. Regression is predicting a value. Something like the price of houses in a particular area can be predicted. If a student gets certain marks in certain subjects like English, language, maths, etc., we can estimate what should be his marks in social studies. So like that we can make a prediction. Same way in unsupervised learning, the type of problem which can be solved is association and clustering. Whereas in reinforcement learning, it will be based upon the reward. So the approach taken here is, in supervised learning, the relationship between the input and outputs are being obtained. Whereas in unsupervised learning, the machine tries to understand the patterns and discovers the output. In reinforcement learning, it follows the trial and error method. So the type of feedback mechanism is, in supervised learning, it is direct feedback. Because during the training phase, if the machine makes a wrong prediction, we can directly correct it. Because the ground truth values are known, so immediately the machine can be corrected. Whereas in unsupervised learning, there is no feedback mechanism because we don't know about the ground truth value. Whereas in a reinforcement learning, it completely depends upon the reward system. In the past action, whether it has resulted in a reward or in a penalty, based upon that experience, a new action will be taken care. So there are different types of algorithms in your supervised learning: linear regression, logistic regression, support vector machine, k-nearest neighbor, random forest, decision tree, naive Bayes, etc. In case of unsupervised learning, we have a k-means clustering algorithm, c-means clustering algorithm, a priori association rule, so etc. Same way in reinforcement learning, two major types of algorithms are supported. One is Q-learning based and another one is SARSA. SARSA is state action reward state action algorithm. So the applications where a supervised learning is used is in risk evaluation, forecasting the sales. In unsupervised learning, it can be used in a recommendation system, anomaly detection system, and for reinforcement learning, it can be used in a self-driving cars and in a gaming consoles. So here we see the differences between different types of machine learning techniques: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more technical learning.